Hello, everyone, and welcome to another weekend workshop. I'm so excited that you're here with us today. My name is Carrie Ramsey, and I'm the project manager for the Weekend Project, which is led by Queen's University. And so this is a beautiful day for us to gather together in this virtual space and learn about a topic that, frankly, I haven't really uncovered before. And I'm just like a lifelong student. So I love to dive into new topics. And when they're presented by our weekend clients, it's even more special to me because I work with, in this case, I've worked with Laura. She's been many of our masterminds. And so it's just wonderful to see these businesses from a different angle. And I know that you're going to appreciate that too as well. So I would like to take a moment as we're getting started to acknowledge that Queen's University is situated on the unceded territory of the Huron, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. And I believe that it was at one of our very recent workshops where I actually highlighted Laura as one of our Indigenous weekend clients. And now she's presenting to us today, which is fun. So I thought I'd take a moment to give a shout out to one of our other Indigenous weekend clients as well. Her name is Tamara Maracle. And some of you may have seen, we featured her recently on our Instagram feed and actually all of our social media feeds. Here's the cool thing. Tamara is, as far as we know, the first female Indigenous race car driver in Ontario in the history of race car driving. And so she has just secured the sponsorship she needs for the next season ahead. She is the owner of TFM Motorsports, which is situated on Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. And she is, like I said, not only possibly the only Indigenous female race car driver in Ontario history, but also she is the only Indigenous female race car driver in the Super Production Challenge Racing Series, which she's a part of. I'm going to put a link to her in the Zoom chat just shortly so that maybe you can follow her, get to know her, cheer her on as her season progresses. So welcome, everyone. Why don't you take a moment now to also introduce yourselves in the Zoom chat? We would love to find out, where are you connecting from? What is your business if you have one? If you want to share a link to that, you can do that as well. And so we would invite you just to get to know each other a little in the Zoom chat. There's a good group today that's joining us, and you just never know. You might find your next collaborator in that Zoom chat. Maybe, even just someone you can learn from and their business as well. So welcome, everyone. It's so great to have you. Just continuing to let a few folks in from the waiting room. All right, so I'm excited about this topic today. This is one that I know Laura has been teaching on for some time. And so there has never been a better time for us just to hit pause a little bit for the next 90 minutes or so and rediscover our path forward. So Laura, I'm going to hand you the virtual microphone. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this workshop. We are so excited to learn from you today.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much. I just want to double check you can hear me okay, Carrie? Yeah, all right. Um, so I am really excited to be here. I am Laura Varga. I am the founder of Life Design Coaching. I have owned my business for over 15 years, and it has evolved a lot over that time. I started out with one-on-one coaching and moved into online courses and programs and mentorship programs to help women on their path forward. So when Carrie reached out about this topic, I was really excited, and it kind of started out as something looking to help this group with rediscovering their purpose and passion in life and business, and how do we bring those two things together. And once I had time to sit with that topic, the embodied entrepreneur came to life. And I would say that that's one of the things that I love about being focused on being an embodied entrepreneur, is that taking that time to sit with topics and sit with what your audience needs, and really getting connected with the people that we're working with and serving. That's part of what embodiment is. So we're going to dive into that today a lot more. And what I would love today is to make this about you. So rather than it being more of a general topic, we are going to have a few sections where you're going to get to reflect and journal on what it is, what this means for you and your business. And so I would love for you to be ready with pen and paper if you can. And if not, notes in your phone or something, whatever is most convenient for you. But we will be asking questions and reflection that I think will make a big difference so that you can take something away and apply it in your life or your business or both right away. So, what we're doing here today is talking about embodying the feminine side of entrepreneurship. And by the feminine side, it's more about the energetics of what that means and balancing the flow of feminine energy in our business. With doing that, it's about looking at what stories or rules that we've created that maybe aren't aligned with embodying that energy, and what are those things that are in our getting in our way that aren't allowing us to maybe flow with the way we want our business and our lives to feel. And so we're going to dive into that. We're going to talk about the illusion of freedom that we may have created. We're going to talk about embodying the feminine, and then we're going to talk about becoming your own version of the embodied entrepreneur. So, with that, I want to start out with getting to know a little bit about you. So, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you can either reflect on your own, you can say something in the chat as your responses to these questions, or I would absolutely love if you're comfortable to hop on and share a little bit about why entrepreneurship. So if you are in business right now and it was a decision that you made to become an entrepreneur, I'm really curious to know who's with us today that chose that path, but also if you look at the questions here, I would love to know how many of you worked in a traditional 9 to 5 or corporate setting prior to choosing entrepreneurship. I would love to know if you still feel fueled by your purpose in your business on a daily basis. And more importantly, this is what I would love if anyone's comfortable to hop on and share is, why did you start your business? So meaning, what was the purpose and the passion behind why you originally started your business? And are you still feeling connected to that?
Ooh, juicy questions. All right, so I will watch the Zoom chat in case somebody would rather respond in the Zoom chat, although I know people are just finishing their introductions. But if someone wants to raise their hand, that might be the easiest way that we can call on you. You can raise your hand using the reaction button is probably easiest from you because I can't see the entire gallery at the moment. But I will do a little bit of oh, there we go. Christine, go ahead. Why don't you let us know? You have to take yourself off mute if you are. There she is.
I'm a movie.
Hi there.
So I thought I was going to respond in the chat. So to answer the question, I worked in healthcare, and it was a commute problem. I was dealing with all that very rapid album facing and back.
Christine, sorry, I'll interrupt. We can't hear you quite clearly. Are you near your microphone?
I think so.
Okay, try it again.
I was just saying that I used to work in healthcare and had a change of desire because I was not liking the commute back and forth to Kingston on the 401 for one. Plus, I was in a position where the department that I was in had been, they all worked together for 15 years. And when I came in and tried to do anything differently, it was very difficult. So it was kind of a stressful situation that made me change my mind. And most of the reason why I started was because I wanted to be free to do my own thing, not have to bow down to corporate BS and the people that think that they should know all this stuff, right? I felt like I was trying to help, but it never seemed to be viewed that way. So, and as far as my passion, fuel for my purpose, it'll be 5 years in November. And I will say the honeymoon is over. But I'd like to have some fresh ideas to bring back that path.
Love it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And I love that you brought up the freedom. Like, that's generally why we started out, right? What makes us make that jump is the freedom. And then that's what we're going to talk about today is how do we get that feeling back?
Love it. I'm going to read a one from the Zoom chat. We'll go to Jesse, and then I believe we'll continue, Laura.
Yeah.
But Tina says, I chose to become an entrepreneur to be in control of my schedule. I love helping people heal from various emotional burdens, and my passion is still strong after 9 years of doing this part-time. Nancy says she created her company as a corporation that prioritizes equitable working environments in a traditional male-dominated workspace. Jesse, over to you, and you can see there's some other Zoom chats that are happening there. But Jesse, go ahead off mute, and we would love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you. I have the traditional go to college, do business, get a 9 to 5. So I had spent 12 years in corporate, and through lived experience and life happening, I went back to school. I was going to do a master's in social work. But then the pandemic happened. And so I found myself in some different frontline social services roles. And right before I started my business, I was running the operations of a safe house for youth exiting human trafficking and sexual exploitation. So I was definitely wanting to do something in a consulting aspect and a program development policy creation as well, because there's only so much you can do as one person. So I went out on my own, thanks to a client of mine. So she really wanted to support women in business, and so now I am doing trauma-informed care training, and yeah, I am so happy that I am not glued to a 9 to 5 desk anymore. I did not realize. I think, for me, entrepreneurship had always been, oh, you're like, you have to work, 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 and you're never able to have a steady income and all the negative misconceptions. And so for me, it's been a very different experience, and I'm quite grateful to have taken the leap.
Wow.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And that touched on a few things about the rules that we're told about, or the expectations of what it's going to be like, and we can go one way or the other. But I heard lots of things about the freedom, being in charge of my schedule, and most importantly, following our passion of what we want to embody and bring out into the world. And I think that's what it's all about. And I know that it can get challenging because of those things that were just mentioned, that we're told that it's going to be hard, we're not going to make enough money, you're going to have to work way more hours than what you would in a 9 to 5. And but there's a balance to all of it. And I think the most important thing is to keep bringing us back to the reason why did we choose entrepreneurship, and how can we make it a little bit different by breaking down some of those rules that we maybe adopted into our businesses that don't really suit the flow of the energy that we want to bring into the world, or the passion projects, the things that we want to bring into the world, which is basically what we were made for, right? We each have this unique thing to bring out into the world, and that's what I want to break down today with you.
Do you have
So
time for one more, Laura? I see Elaine's got her hand up, and then we'll move on, or?
let me just, sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead, Elaine, if you want to do it just nice and succinctly, and then we'll leave ahead.
Sorry, thank you. My name's Elaine. I'm a second generation fruit and vegetable grower. And so I kind of always been pushed in a certain direction when it comes to entrepreneurial path. But in order for myself and my family to be able to prosper on the farm, I needed to create I needed to grow the business. So I've been growing the business into an agritourism, in the agritourism direction. And I feel that I'm fueled by purpose, kind of like survival of to make sure that the farm survives and that there's a place for my children, if they so choose to be a part of the farm. And so the reason why I started the business, that section of the business, was to be able to retire here as well, and to keep the farm going.
That's
Beautiful.
beautiful. That's a really nice connection to the work that you're doing.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing. So, and I think that just continues with our theme. I'm feeling it. And that's why I wanted to start with these questions, and to know that we're all connected in a different way of bringing what's innately within us, our passions for the way we want to live, our passions for who we want to help in the world, and we want to bring that out in a really big, bold way. And so today what we're going to talk about is doing it from a place of embodiment and using more of the feminine flow. And what that really means to me, the focus today is more going to be about embodying who we want to become, and embodying more of the things that allow us to flow in our creativity, our intuition, and bringing our passion and skills into the world in an easy way. So I actually just added this slide in this morning to make sure that I'm aligned with what everyone joined here today. And so I wanted to make sure that when I'm talking about embodying the feminine, or even just embodiment, today I'm talking about the focus on flow over force. So if we want to think of it in like feminine versus masculine, we can, but it's more to me about the embodiment of who we want to become and how we want our lives and our businesses to feel. So some of the things that I want to talk about is creating more flow in our lives, and how to do things with more ease rather than hustle, which would look like, rather than pushing ourselves in a way that's not really supportive or compassionate for what our needs are. It's about what we need along the way, as well as how we serve our clients and how we serve the people that we came here to serve. And then being versus doing. I'm sure you've probably have some awareness of being versus doing, but being is about the embodiment of being who you want to become, or who you are meant to be, rather than focusing on the doing, which is all of the tasks and the actions that we think that we need to do in order to achieve something. But by embodying the thing that we want to see in the world, or by embodying the thing that we want to become, it's a whole other way of approaching the outcomes or the results that we're looking for. So the other thing I put here was just embodiment over action. So it's a really interesting concept, because when we think about embodiment versus action, we know that we live in this world where actions are required in order to produce results. But sometimes what we forget is that we can spend a bit more time sitting back and embodying who we want to become, and embodying the feeling of what we want to create in the world, and what we want to create for ourselves or the people around us. And that can have just as much power and effect as taking physical actions. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more. And first, I want to talk about some of the things that you just brought up, the illusion of freedom. So when we step away from a traditional 9 to 5 or a corporate job, or any situation where we're feeling confined, it's generally because of us craving a sense of freedom. We want to create more freedom for ourselves, more flow. I heard someone say having less of a strict schedule, like having more control over my schedule. So freedom is generally at the basis of what we're looking for. And sometimes when people think about freedom, we can forget about all of the things that it entails, and fulfillment has to do with feeling free. So when you focus on what's personally fulfilling to you, which is getting back to the basics of what you came here to do, what you're passionate about, why you want to serve people you want to serve, or why you want to have an impact in the world, that sense of fulfillment is what creates your sense of freedom, because that's when work doesn't feel like work, it feels like fulfillment. So that's where you will create your sense of freedom. And I wanted to talk about breaking free from the 9 to 5 structures. So I want to talk a little bit about even just myself. When I started my coaching business, I was reflecting on this recently, that sometimes things don't work out exactly the way we want them to, but it's because it's leading us somewhere better, somewhere different. And when I think about what I had envisioned, is I wanted to be a life coach, and I did start my business, and worked 9 to 5, having hour-long appointments with clients in person. So confined to my 4 walls in my office, same structure as a 9 to 5 job, just taking my lunch break and then filling those hours. And even with that, if I had continued to just do that, I never would have been able to grow and evolve my business in the way that it has. And even thinking about that, it also financially would cap my business because I'm one person. I can only do so much in those so many hours in a day. So it was very much structured along the lines of working in the same office job that I had before that. So when we talk about the illusion of freedom and breaking free from the 9 to 5 structures, I'm curious about the things that the rules that we've created for ourselves that continue with the 9 to 5. So another example that I want to give you before we get into the discussion point is I often talk to entrepreneurs who have very strict rules for themselves about where they physically work within their home or office, meaning like sitting in one spot, same spot all day, every day. And they forget that they have the freedom to move around in their home or move around in their office or, go sit outside and do something from their phone as a way to just kind of change up and create that sense of freedom or difference in their lives. But the other thing that I often hear is that someone that doesn't want to work weekends, so they stick to the Monday to Friday schedule. And the question that I always ask is that aligned with their natural flow of creativity and their natural flow of energy? So sometimes we forget to ask ourselves those questions because we're very stuck on well, no, that's my time, that's my weekend. But one of the things for me that I want to share with you is that I've learned, and I know for sure, that my least productive days are Monday, Tuesday, or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. But my most creative and productive days by far are Friday and Saturday. And so if I created a rule for myself that I will not work Saturdays or I won't work on weekends, I would miss out on that flow of my own creativity because that's when I'm the most energized. That seems to be when I get the most downloads of creative ideas to create courses and programs. And if I had a rule for myself that I was not going to open my computer, I was not going to work during those times on weekends, I would really be missing out on my natural creative flow and natural things that come to me. So I just wanted to provide that as an example of something where if we create rules for ourselves in our businesses that don't necessarily align with our natural flow or our natural intuition or when we have the most energy, even thinking about our cycles and everything like that, it's more about honoring when those things are happening and when we're the most naturally effective, when we're the most naturally energetic, when we're the most naturally creative, and really structuring our business or our lives around those types of things. So I'm just going to move to the questions because I feel like I've just talked for a long time and I want to hear from you. I would love if you could take a moment to look at these questions here on the screen. And if you do have a pen and paper, I just feel like it's the most effective way to really reflect and get responses for yourself in your business. But I would love to hear from you. So anyone that's comfortable to share answering any one of these 3 questions, if you want to share with the group, I'm really curious to know if you are aware of any rules that you've created for yourself that's kind of holding you back a little bit in your business because we're following traditional ways of running our businesses. So if you're comfortable to share any one of these, but I'd love if you could just take maybe 2 minutes right now and take a look at these questions and reflect on them and write out what your responses are.
Okay, so Laura, do you want us just to go in order of who has their hands up? You fell off my
Sure,
screen.
yeah.
There you are. Okay.
Oh.
Joanne, do you want to start?
Sure, yeah, I can go first. This is such an interesting reflection because I noticed that I already sort of fixed this in my own head, but it's still good to think about because I used to be someone who was like, I have to get in my workout before work, but I really hated working out in the morning. Um, and so then I was like, wait, hold on a second. I have control over my own schedule. I can go to the pool at the middle of the day if I feel like it. And so making that shift was really helpful because I actually work best first thing in the morning. So I get a bunch of focus work done and then I go to the gym and then my whole day flows better. But I had to really get out of the mindset of like, oh, I have to do this before working hours. And then I was like, wait, there are no working hours for me.
Yeah, I really love that. And because by switching that time of day, it also gives you a reset halfway through your
Yeah.
day, right? And then it's almost like you're starting all over again and you can do even more than what you would have been able to do if you forced yourself in the morning to stick to that rule.
Yeah, exactly.
I really like that.
Who
Thank
needs
you.
an energy drink when you're doing that in the middle of the day? I love it.
Yeah.
Paula, over to you.
Yeah. So Joanne, that absolutely resonates with me. Like my upbringing, even my first sort of professional career was very structured. How can we be most efficient with our time? How can, we fit in everything and be everything? But what I find now, particularly in doing my consulting and business advisory work is that I the I still have a sense of like I'm motivated by guilt to be there at 9 to 5, answer within 30 minutes because that's good customer service, and just be sitting there. And there are times honestly where it's almost like my brain checks out. And what I find is, the journey or the process that I'm going through is to really start my day with mindfulness and like, what do I need to do today? Because I know that when I'm in the groove, it's like, yeah, this is happening. And that could be, a Sunday morning at 7 a.m. to 12. I have this burst of, creativity or burst of, productivity, I suppose, because Saturday I spent my whole day, doing batch cooking or, just cleaning my home at at a rate that I wanted and, listening to a podcast. So I do really find that the rule that I hold on to really is this, be productive. It's all about output. And it's like, yeah, but at the same time, just even thinking or not doing things that you really feel like you need to be doing just opens you up to, just, I don't know, a little bit more of like, creativity, or you get your aha moment when you're not actually in it. And so that's why a new rule that I'm trying to do is like, you know what, like Paula, trust yourself. If it's not coming to you, don't force it. It will. And you need to, be fully present and mindful of like what it is that you need so that you can be, you can be who and do what, needs to get done on your own terms.
Yeah, I love that because you really nailed it about the embodiment piece in different words, and it's about giving yourself permission to step away. And I think you said batch cooking, like something that you do that you feel good about, that kind of opens up this different channel within you. Then all of the answers that you were trying to push yourself to find just automatically show up, right? So it's like taking that step back and even just the mindful practices. To me, it can be as quickly as 5 or 10 minutes in the morning of imagining or embodying who you want to be and how you want to feel in your day, and then that creates more flow. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing.
Love it. Heather, over to you.
I guess I don't know if mine's a little bit different, but one thing about being in HR, so I'm an HR consultant, for 25 years, you always had to present in a certain way. And so, for example, like dress in a certain way. I my hairdresser goes crazy because I have curly hair, and I'm like, but it's not professional. But that's what I really want to do is I don't want to have to get up and blow dry my hair every day, because that looks more professional and not being, my authentic self. So coming into this, I've really thought a lot and been thinking a lot more about that I want to be more my authentic self. So being more my authentic self is being more fun and trying to balance that with people, still coming across as being professional. So I did just rebrand to be a little more, not professional, but a little more modern, but a little more playful too. And so anyway, that's one of the things that, you have to dress a certain way. I've got, sort of almost a uniform that I wear, a business suit and whatever, and which is fine, but knowing that I don't have to do that. I mean, I'm not going to come in jeans, but just wanting to be more my authentic self. So those are the rules that I put in place. Like, you have to look a certain way. You can't have funky glasses. You have to have like professional glasses,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that you shared that, because that, like, those are rules that we need to break down, and a lot of it is just tapping into our authentic selves. And I totally relate to the curly hair thing. And even coming on today, I know that there would be some people that my hair doesn't look done up, and so that's just curly hair problems. But it's also just, this is who I am and this is how I want to show up, and being authentic is really important. And I totally relate to the rule about appearance and dressing. And I know we need to have, structures and things to follow in order for everyone to work together. But I started working at a bank when I was 17 years old, wearing suits. And it's just really interesting to think about. I felt that was the only way to feel professional and look professional and to be respected. And so it's still, part of that is in me. Even when I go to teach a workshop, I think I like go to wear what I would wear in a professional setting. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I want to be myself and I want to be comfortable. So, I still look presentable, but it's not wearing a suit the way I used to. Yeah.
And just before we go to Jackie, my first job was in a law firm. I also wore suits, Laura. And when you think about it, why did women wear suits? Because men wear suits, right? And so we were trying to replicate what we saw in the workforce. And what we're talking about today is a new set of rules. And I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. Jackie, over to you.
Yeah, so I love this topic, and I can definitely relate with a lot of things people are saying in terms of like start times, end times, certain days off, things like that, stay home, not go anywhere else, or the office space at home. But one that was a little bit different that I haven't heard yet that I want to share was the idea of like needing more credentials. I definitely had like a story that I told myself at the beginning of my business that I needed to make sure I had all of these professional credentials, and that it never really was enough. And I will say there's always a time and place for learning. I love learning, and I think it's important to like feel good about what you're doing and feel educated in what you're doing. But I also think that there's a balance between, having that education and like not taking action because you don't feel like you know what you're doing, or you've told yourself that you're not worthy of it because you don't have a credential, like a piece of paper. So that's one rule that I had for myself at the beginning that I am very actively trying to break through.
That is amazing. I really like that, and it's so true. And I know I went through the same thing, and it's like, okay, well, when is enough enough? And really what you're doing is bringing your natural gifts into the world. So is there really a credential for that? No. But I totally relate to feeling like we need to prove that it is the way, like that we are good enough according to someone else's standards. But when we're tapping in and embodying what we're meant to bring to the world, there is no standard can prove that other than you showing up, right? That's a really good one.
Really good. The truth bombs being dropped here are just like, let's just take all the notes, watch the recording later, share it with all our friends. Ashley, over to you. I love it. Over to you.
Okay, so talking about appearances, I'm in my robe right now, so hopefully that's cool. I am very authentic right now, but I did have a procedure yesterday, so I'm technically in bed today. Sorry, give me a sec. What was I going to say? Oh, yes, rules. One rule that was in how I operate my business, that wasn't there at the beginning and has come into effect thanks to one of my kids, is that when I have them, I'm not working. So, when I pick them up from school at 2:45 until they go to bed at around 8, 8:30, I'm not working. I'm with them. We're engaged, we're doing things, even if we're just watching something. They asked me if I could work when they're at school and when they're sleeping, and I've said, you know what, that is a very fair ask. They know that if they stay home from school and in summer holidays, I have to work, and they understand my work, and they know that, when they are dragging on bedtime, and I say, listen, I have to work. If you want me to not work when you guys are here, then you need to go to sleep so that I can go back to work. And they know that I do. They hear me in meetings. So yeah, that's been a bit of a trade-off, and a promise that, I've made to them. Summer holidays will obviously be a little bit different, but I also, now that they're 50-50, I have them every other weekend. So every other weekend I don't work, unless it's after 8:39 p.m. And on the weekends that I, don't have them, I do like 15-hour days. So it's kind of a trade-off right now, but it's certainly something, like, I know that it hinders my business per se. I know that there is more growth that could happen if I use those hours between 3 to 8. However, it's just not something that I'm willing to give up at this point.
That sounds like a really special and meaningful reason to make those adjustments. And I think that even where the rule where we think that we're missing out on certain productive times, like that can be a rule that you can just decide to change and know that when you are working, that's when you're going to be the most productive, and that you're doing it for a very meaningful reason, which I think is pretty powerful. And I also think it goes back to, what if there are no rules? Like, each of us are creating the rules for our businesses. So it doesn't really matter what's going on in the outside. It's like, there are no rules. So let's start fresh and say, this is the way the world works for me. And I love that. It's a special.
Like, what are those magic writing pads where you like write on and you pull it up and all the writing disappears? It's like,
Yeah.
clean slate. And also, Ashley, on behalf of all the moms whose kids have now like gone on left home, this is a season you're in. It won't always be this season. Like, pretty soon they're going to be like out of that. Like, they're just going to go with their friends, and you're going to have more time. So it is a season, and I've also been through that season. Yeah.
Can I just share one thing? I caught myself doing that not too long ago, that I brought my son to a basketball tournament, and I don't have to be, in my old world, corporate world, I used to have to work all the time. And so out of habit, I brought my computer and thought I needed to get some stuff done. And then I realized that I missed out on being present in the basketball tournament, that I have the full freedom to be there. And I out of an old habit, did the opposite of what I want to do in my business. So then the next time there was a tournament, I was fully present and all I did was watch, because that's why we became entrepreneurs, right? To have that freedom and flexibility, be there for our loved ones. And yeah, it's breaking the rules, and they're sometimes really tough to break because our habits are just ingrained in us. We don't always think about them.
Haru, over to you.
Hi, this is great, really good exercise. Thank you very much. So the first one, the rule I made 18 years ago, don't do what I don't know. Many people suggested to carry coffee. I actually sell tea. I sell only tea. And many people suggested to sell coffee. And I'm not against coffee, but I just don't know coffee. So I didn't do it. So that hold me in one place. And then actually that hold me grounded, I think. So I think it worked well for me. And the last one was a little bit difficult, but I wrote down, I don't have a boss. freedom, right? But I have customers, and I think I have to meet expectations. So I feel the pressure to do the things properly and show up consistently. So I don't know, that's the freedom, or because I have a brick and mortar store, so I have to be here, right? So it's always expectation and pressure, but I enjoy it. I enjoy the work, but I realize I've brought some expectation from my past jobs into my business. And I have employee now, a part-timer, and 2 years ago, so it's good because he can be here and then I can go somewhere else. But then I have responsibility for him too. So it's always trade-off.
Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you for this reflection. It's great.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I just want to call out two things. I love that you pointed out the tea versus coffee, because it's a reminder to all of us that someone saying why you should carry coffee is them thinking you're missing out on something. So we're not missing out on anything if we stick to our passion and our vision for what we want to bring into the world. And then the other thing about the brick and mortar business and of course being there for your customers and the expectations, I think you could play with that a little bit and just the embodiment of the passion of why you're there. Like you said, you love what you do, and sometimes it's just refocusing on making that being the only reason why you're there, and not just for the expectations, I guess. It takes some playing around with, and it's all about balance too, right? Being able to step away and give yourself some time is also important. But thank you for sharing.
Lots of comments in the Zoom chat. I won't read all of them, but for those of you who have been, some really good comments there as well, Laura.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you everyone for sharing. I love this. I love this because it makes it helps everyone, right? We're all connecting and all learning from each other. Okay. Let's see how I move to the next one. Okay. So I think we covered some of these, which is awesome. And I want to talk about embodying the feminine flow, which I think we just did cover some of those things. It's about breaking down the rules, right? So redefining productivity, embracing the cyclical flow for ourselves, our businesses, and our lives, and then making space for creativity. So redefining productivity, I heard lots of comments and lots of sharing about what maybe the rules that we're following to push ourselves to get something done, or to say that we have to follow these certain rules. And I really think that part of productivity, which someone did share about this, is it's also about stepping back and taking time out for yourself to reset. So the example of I apologize, I don't remember the name, but the rule of working out in the morning because they have to, and then making the change to then start like working out in the afternoon or midday or whatever. It, to some people, they would say that that's like taking time out midday wouldn't be productive, but what it actually created was more productivity and more flow for that person. And I think those are the things that we really need to pay attention to when we're talking about what productivity really is. Because if we're just pushing ourselves all day, every day to get results, it's not necessarily going to produce what we want. And it's especially not going to produce it with that feeling of embodiment and fulfillment that we're looking for, right? When we go back to the freedom that we want to create for ourselves, freedom is about feeling fulfilled. So freedom isn't necessarily about doing nothing. It's about feeling really good about everything you're doing and being tapped into your purpose. And so if we think about, and don't worry, I'll have questions on the next slide for you, but if we think about redefining productivity, one example that I really want to share is an example of not too long ago that I filled my day with like meetings in the morning, and then I was going to teach a workshop in the evening, and I was planning to stay in Kingston all day and go do more work mid-afternoon before the workshop and just like keep myself going all day. And after going to the morning meeting, wearing like, an outfit that was dressed up because I felt like I had to look professional, and it didn't feel very good. It felt kind of yucky. I decided to just go back home, which was almost an hour away. And I went home, I went for a walk, and then I just laid on my deck and stared at the sky for probably an hour, did absolutely nothing right in the middle of the day when I had all of these big plans. And what that allowed me to do was I totally changed the way that I was going to present my workshop that evening. I got new ideas and downloads for what I wanted to teach. And also, like, even I dressed differently for the workshop that evening. And it was one of my most powerful workshops because it was so authentic, because I allowed myself the time to just like sink into who I am and how I want to show up and who I want to serve. And even there was some ladies there that had been to one of my previous workshops on the exact same topic, but they really noticed that I showed up differently, I dressed differently, and I presented differently, and they could feel it. And when they said they could feel it, I was like, that was exactly what my goal was. I want you to feel what I'm talking about. And so I really wanted to share that example of redefining productivity, because we think productivity is doing, going, action, moving. But when we're creative people who have something we want to bring into the world, our productivity comes from being centered and connected and knowing who we are and being really good at showing up with that person being at the forefront. So that's my example of redefining productivity. And then the other piece about embracing the cyclical flow, I wasn't sure if I even wanted to put that in there because there's so many variations of what that could mean, but I think we can probably all relate to having ups and downs, right? You don't feel the exact same 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all month long. And I think it's important to, everything's about balance, right? But sometimes we need to have a bit more compassion for ourselves on the days when we really don't feel like doing something. Sometimes you need to push through it, but sometimes you need to recognize that you need to give yourself that time to sit back and sink in and honor whatever it is that's going on within you, right? And I feel like from that creates more energy and more productivity. So it's just looking at things a little bit differently and how we are compassionate towards ourselves, how we look at ourselves, and really honoring the fact that we're not the exact same every day. We're not the same 7 days a week. We don't feel the same 7 days a week, and that has to be okay. So it's almost just giving permission for that to be okay. And then the last thing, I hope I'm not rushing now. No. Making space for creativity. We did talk about this a little bit already, and it's kind of the same things that I just said. It's making space in your day to step away from what you're doing and meaning the doing. Like when we're constantly taking actions and only in a doing space, it disconnects us from our flow of creativity. So it's someone mentioned stepping away to do some baking or again, like going to the gym or going swimming or going for a walk, or like me, just laying outside. And it doesn't seem like a very productive thing to do in the business world, but making space for creativity only comes from stillness. And generally that's where all the answers to all of your problems will show up. So if we don't take time to step away from what we're doing, you could spend an hour trying to solve a problem. And if you sit in the same spot, thinking about it in the same way, it's not going to solve the problem. But if you step away, change your environment, even to walk outside, it could create that flow instantly so that you can solve the problem or come up with the creative solution that you're looking for in your business or in your life. So with that, more reflection. If you can take just a few minutes to answer one or all of these questions, I would love for you to, again, write them out. But I of course, love hearing what your experiences are and would love for you to share any responses that you have.
So we'll pause the recording and we'll put 2 minutes on the clock for this reflection, and we'll
And I really like what you said, Carrie. Showing up for yourself in these moments is powerful.
Nancy, why don't you kick it off for us?
Well, I decided to maybe express my thoughts, which probably isn't going to be what the answers were that you were looking for necessarily. But really, I guess I'm looking at these questions. I'm like, oh my God, I don't do this at all. Almost because I feel like if I continue to be productive, I'll get to a point where I'm going to have the time to take to be, reset, creative, all of these things. So I guess these questions are really pointing out my problem a little bit. So
Like a chicken and the egg thing. Yeah.
I just want to put that out there. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And it is so true because we tend to think like if we just push through our to-do list, sometimes we have to, like we'll get to the end, but I don't think it ends. So then it's like, well, when do you get time to take out for yourself to actually tap into the things that are meaningful? So yeah, very good point. Thank you.
One of my clients is a yoga teacher. She has a phrase, making peace with the undone. And it's that idea. It can be undone for us to go and create that creative space. I love that so much. Yeah. Elaine, over to you. And then, sorry, there was one other hand or two that flashed up, but they're gone. So just re-raise those if you do want to participate. Elaine, over to you next.
So the activities, my job is all about being creative. So I'm constantly growing the business. And so I find I have to do the opposite because I'm kind of introverted and I need to take time and read. And that kind of helps me unwind so that I can just take a step back. Passion projects, I'm building an adventure park this year. And the priority of the projects with the same importance. So I find that I'm always trying to be creative, and then I have a hard time wearing the different hats and the different roles that I have in the business. As well, the summer I can have up to 50 employees, so I have to be like really organized, and then I have to be like, I find that I always kind of have to try to switch my mindset into a 9 to 5 in order to create flow within my store and all the employees that run that department. But then I have it's just hard wearing the different roles and the different hats that I have. I have a lot of different hats. And so I'm always trying to find time for creativity, and then I'm always trying to find time to unwind as much as I can. So I find it all very tricky. So I'm always looking for advice.
And I think it is all about balance and maybe going back to that fulfillment piece, right? Making sure that the fulfillment is where freedom comes from. So we can be really busy in a sense, but if we're doing something that's really fulfilling, then it doesn't feel like work. So it's kind of like that thing where your life is fulfilling and you're doing the things that you're passionate about, so it doesn't feel like work. It's like life and business just become this integrated thing, not out of like hustle, but out of flow. So I think that's really good, and that you have a passion project is amazing. And the purpose of that question was about, a lot of people forget to prioritize that passion project before they take care of their clients and all of the other things, which is a really different way of thinking. So it was kind of just to get people thinking differently. But thank you.
When Elaine was speaking, it made me think about the difference of working in your business, which is what she was talking about, versus on your business, and that role that, as we get to a certain level, we need to hire someone to do the things so that we can step back and be the visionary that we need to be in our business. But that's a whole coaching thing, which is always juicy and fun for women entrepreneurs. So, but that's what it triggered immediately when I thought of that. Like visionaries need to or like the owner needs to have the space to do what we're talking about here. Otherwise, how can we grow? Right? Love it. You're opening up some really great threads of thought here. So Rita, I think you had your hand up next, and then we'll go to Marta.
Hi, Carrie and everybody. This is really great to spend time on. I worked for myself pretty much all my life, and in the throes of COVID, that shock of, suddenly stop everything and everybody else has stopped everything. And what do you do and how do you spend the time as an entrepreneur? In that, I had to give myself permission to do part of the day just on my stuff. And so I decided that midday kind of was a good time to split it. And so the mornings I spent on the puttering I like to do, which is picking up after yesterday a little bit, but also doing R&D, which is also the same as having coffee and reading. And so I would give myself permission to use the morning until noon to do those sorts of things every day, 7 days a week, because they have to be. And in that, they were also saying pivot. So pivoted I did. And I find that part of my bootstrapping is relying heavily on one type of business and versus the other. So when I turn away and do anything like a passion project for 10 minutes, it turns into something that I'm unexpectedly spending way too much time on. And I just discovered that in doing some writing about a nice little trip I took to New York and trying to publish it. And I am publishing it, and I will send you a note when it comes out, but it's not going to make me any money right now. It's just was for fun and for disclosure, shall we say, about an expression of what happened while I was away from work even.
Yeah, so Laura, what do you have to say in terms of that's an interesting thing about, okay, what if you create this creative space, but then it ends up taking over the rest of your day? What are your feelings on that?
I think that's really interesting, and it is a good point. I think that the purpose of focusing on our passion projects is that it is meant to it opens up your creativity. So it opens up this different type of flow that you wouldn't have if you just stayed focused and forced on one thing in your business. I think it's an interesting, I don't even want to call it a problem, but an interesting problem to have, that it must have been flowing so much that it's coming out so well that it could be something that's going to make you money, and it could be something that's going to naturally change the trajectory of what you're doing. So I think it also has to do with like following our intuition and our instincts and allowing those things to flow through. But I do get there has to be a balance of still focusing on bringing money in today. But
So
yeah.
speaking of intuition, I want to go to Marta next. So what are your thoughts on that, Marta? Or just generally, what was your reflection?
That's a beautiful segue, Carrie. Right on. I totally relate to like feeling like I'm all over the place, because I'm like, there's just so much to do, and as a solopreneur, there's just so much to do all the time. And I think that because of all of the passion projects that I personally do have a lot going on at the time, I find myself scattered and not necessarily prioritizing on just one avenue and just getting this done, because it's just like I'll hit like a roadblock. Either it's because like my own skill set just isn't like that, it just might not be my forte to be doing things like marketing, and so I'll do something but I don't fully finish. But in terms of like just what I was going to reflect on here, I things that like help me nurture my creativity is still showing up in my business. Like I try to like double task certain things, so like even just dressing up helps me tap into my creativity, or I guess the way I would phrase it is like my sacral chakra, my self-expression, my femininity as well. I very much built the premise of my business is about authenticity and like living your most authentic life. And so for me, the fact that I'm right now working from a cafe in the US is me living my most authentic life, because I get to pick up my life and go anywhere I want. And I feel a sense of purpose because I'm doing what I know my soul is here to do in terms of like serving other people. But I'm also fulfilling my soul's purpose in loving and nurturing me, because it means traveling. It means being in a hot country. It means being with people I love, doing things I love. And so I feel that like all of my days are filled with things that just bring me passion. but my business is also a really big thing where like I have my friends and family ripping me away from my phone and my laptop, like, okay, get off. Like you've been doing this for hours. And I'm like, I know I don't want to stop. But I know that I need to stop because it's that I do feel the burnout afterwards, but it's just like it's so invigorating to create. Like I don't really like creating or scheduling things, but I love creating content. I love connecting with people and meeting with clients. Like, I mean, as you can tell, I'm like so bubbly and it's like I'm also hungry. So it's just like, does it make sense that I have all this energy?
Love that.
But yeah, that's my piece.
I love that you said the last thing you said. Does it make sense that I have all this energy? And that's exactly what it is. When you're tapped into your creativity and your passions, you don't run out of energy in the sense that like working so much, it's like time expands. You could work so much more and get so much more done in a very ease-filled way. That's very different than like the pushing and doing and hustling. So it's like that's why it is important to follow the flow of the creativity and the passions and I think when the creativity is flowing, don't stop because it's like time expands or stops or whatever, and you can just continue creating until it taps out, and then you have to nurture yourself again to get back into it.
Yeah, there's a great question I want to touch on from the Zoom. And also Julia, so she's a bridal shop owner, and I also was a former retail shop owner. So I know what she's saying about like when you have to be in the shop every day, it's really hard to be creative because you're just looking at the stuff, you start to hate the stuff, you know, frankly, it's like, and so that's where I had to hire employees because I was like, I need to get out of the shop so I can think about the shop as a customer, not as a person who lives there day and night. So that was really important for me to hire, which is like, okay, but you know, people are like, I know, but I can't afford to hire. But it's like, it's almost like if you do hire, you can do the $500 jobs versus the $50 an hour
Right.
jobs, sort of. So anyways, I thought I would just speak to Julia's comment there. Tina has a question though. As a healer, she says, I struggle with embracing and embodying the sales and marketing aspect of my business. Do you have any suggestion to overcome this hurdle?
I did see that question, and I had actually a little section that I wanted to put into the presentation, but I didn't have time for that. But when I saw that question, it reminded me of what Carrie just said about I know sometimes it's a tough decision to make to hire someone to do the things for you because it feels like it's going to cost us money. But sometimes when you spend your time doing the things that you're passionate about, that you're really good at, the reason why you created your business. So like tapping back into the reason why you want to put your work out into the world. For me, my suggestion would be to consider hiring someone to do those things because for me personally, I don't love admin stuff and I don't really love doing the website design. And I have always had someone help me do that, even when I didn't have enough money to really pay. Like I didn't think I had enough money to pay for it, but I would rather spend my time creating courses and creating content and doing the things that flow really easily to me that I know are going to have a big impact, and then have someone else help me with the details that my brain just does not want to compute, basically. So that's one thing. And the other thing I could suggest is that when you think about embodying, we're going to do this in the next section actually, but embodying the visionary, embodying the person who you want to become, like when you want to show up in the world and who you want to be, you could almost just ask yourself, like, how would that ultimate version of you handle or make decisions around the marketing and content? How would that version of you show up? Would she do it herself or not? Would she hire someone else? And it's kind of like putting yourself in a different mindset to make decisions about your business as if you're your future self already, because it can kind of help guide you on what to do right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
I think I do need to move forward.
Yeah, so just in terms of time, we have 20 minutes left, just to let you know.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. And that was actually the perfect segue with that last question. So what I was talking about, embracing your version of the embodied entrepreneur, I think this is different. It's so different for everyone. And I think that's why it's important to recognize our individual creative flow, our individual contributions and our individual passions and the gifts that we want to bring out into the world, and how we want to show up in the world. And getting really tapped into that is what can help us make decisions about our business. And that is what can help you make a decision to let go of a passion project, because if it's not really aligned with the bigger vision of what you came here to do in the world and what you want to bring out into the world, or how you want to serve your customers, then it might be something that is just your mind or your ego distracting you from your bigger version of yourself, from your big picture. So when we can tap into being that embodied version of ourselves, it helps us make decisions about our businesses and about our lives and where we really want to go, and noticing where what we've talked about today, all the rules and the busy work, and even sometimes those passion projects can be like, I don't want to say slowing us down. It opens up our creativity, but it could be also a little trick that you're playing on yourself to not show up in a bigger way in the world, right? So it's noticing what tricks do we use to distract ourselves from really showing up in a big way. So I'm looking at my notes here. What does flow look like? I want to talk about what that looks like for you rather than what it looks like for me. But what flow looks like is different for everyone. And for me, it's about all the things that we talked about today, right? So being able to recognize in any moment when you need to step away because you're not in flow and you're just forcing yourself through something, or when you become disconnected from feeling fulfilled in what you're doing, or disconnected from the reason, the purpose, the vision, the passion. Just taking a step back and reconnecting with those things can help you get back into the flow. And most importantly, what we talked about is what we think is productivity. We need to really rethink what productivity is, because we need to build that time into our schedules to step away. And however we need to do that, we need to create space for ourselves to be able to tap into creativity and flow. Leveraging intuitive practices for business. I think we heard some of those things today about taking some time out to be mindful, taking time out from what we're going to talk about next, is just embodying or envisioning who you want to be or what you want to bring into the world, and getting really connected to that. For me, some intuitive practices is just recognizing what I need in the moment. And like the example I gave you on the day where I just wasn't feeling where I was. I didn't like what I was wearing. I didn't like that I was pretending to be something not authentic. And so I literally went home, changed my day, laid outside, just so that I could completely reset what I was doing and what I was thinking. And that's where your intuition will show up. So it's maybe making decisions not from a place of what's going to get me results, but from a place of what's going to allow my business to become what I envision it to be. And then the last thing on here is going to be the questions that I want to dive into on the next slide. And it's, who do you need to become? So it's asking yourself this question all the time, because for me, when I'm making decisions about my business, I'm making them based on the next level version of myself, or the future version of me, so that I'm not, just to kind of check with myself that I'm not just playing small and safe, because I will be fully honest, I have a tendency to do that. Like, I notice if I have a way out of something that I committed to when I was feeling really good and like really envisioning my future, and then that thing is coming up, I start to feel maybe a little small, and I will, like, my mind will play tricks and be like, how can I get out of this, or how can I show up in a smaller way? So it's really paying attention to that and getting back to, who do you need to become? Like, what beliefs do you need to have? How do you need to make decisions? How do you need to show up in order to become that next level version of you? So we're gonna go through some questions again, because I love reflections. So again, I'd love for you to take a minute to envision or connect with the ultimate version of yourself. And when I'm saying that, it's, if you can take a minute to just think about the reason why you started your business, the gifts or the passion that you want to bring into the world. Like, what is it that you want to create in the world? Who do you want to serve? And it's getting connected with who do we need to become in order to make that happen? And then every decision that we're going to make needs to be about that. Like, who do I need to become? And in this moment, would that person make this decision or this decision if I'm running my business in that ultimate version of what I envision? So
Love that. Okay,
yeah,
we'll put 2 minutes on the clock. We'll probably have fewer people respond off mic afterwards for sake of time, but let's pause and we'll come right back to you in 2 minutes. Okay, so we'll just start in the Zoom chat. I'm just gonna pull it down here. So Elaine talking about struggling with the belief that she has to grow her business with only profits and never get into debt. But she says I could speed up the process if I did take a loan. And so, yeah, so that's a big belief. And by the way, you are not alone. A lot of women have that same outlook.
I am.
Not right or wrong. It's very prevalent though.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. And I really like the two things here that I really like is what beliefs do we need to let go of, and then what beliefs do we need to embody. And me personally, I've been actually taking time lately to study wealth, like to study what wealthy people do. And the number one thing that I am learning is like, and I already have this belief, like I don't believe debt is a bad thing. I just believe we're taught that it's a bad thing. But I think that what I've been reading is that wealthy people will use loans to leverage anything that's going to make them money. So they also do not see debt as a bad thing. So even I don't know if that helps at all, but I've personally just been researching, like, what do wealthy people do? How do they make these decisions? How do they think about debt? So
it's a really great investment to think about a money coach sometimes in those cases also, or, yeah, absolutely. And it's like using what you were talking about, using other people's money to make money, like obviously not getting in debt over our heads, it's
right.
using other people's money and moving forward. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Another couple of questions or comments here. Nancy says, I think not knowing what our authentic or bigger version of ourselves can keep us being productive rather than creative. Yeah, so not knowing who that authentic version of ourselves is, that's key. Nancy also mentions letting go of the belief that we need to be better than our competitors. Ooh, I love that. I always talk about better versus different. Like that's a total mind.
Yeah, who decides what's better, right? Everyone's individual. What they need is what you might have to offer.
Yeah, be different, not better. Love it. Charlene says, reinforce and embody these beliefs that I'm worthy to be of service and I'm respected, seen, and heard. Also, letting go of the belief that every step forward has to be really hard.
Ooh, that's a juicy one. And I love this. It's right. We need to know what beliefs we need to let go of that are currently operating the way that we make decisions. And then we also need to know what beliefs would we need to embody in order to become that next level of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Janice talking about embracing collaboration, authenticity. Anyone else with a final thought on this? And it'll flow out of this session. I hope it will stick with you the rest of the day, maybe the rest of your life, that we will continue to ask ourselves these types of questions. But any final ones before we go into a wrap up for right now? Okay, so letting go of the belief. Oh, it just buzzed by me here. Jackie says, letting go of the belief that I'll feel ready when it's the right time. That's such a good one.
That is a really good one because that can be a trick, right? That's like something that we're using to hold ourselves back from. And I noticed I've been practicing with this, right? It's a balance of embodying who we want to become, but also I think I talked about this on a recent weekend gathering where I was using the trick I don't feel like it to like not do my social media or to like not go like live on a video on social media. And I don't feel like it was just an excuse because as soon as I get myself on there, it's flowing and it feels really good. So it's like, what are those little things that are holding us back? That it could be, it's a belief, right? Well, I don't believe that people want to hear what I have to say, but the new belief can be like, everyone's waiting to hear what I have to say. So it's just making those little shifts, right?
Oh, good. Oh,
Yeah.
good. All right. Final comment in the chat. I'm just looking here. Yeah, people working on scarcity, letting go of scarcity. Laura, tell people how they can get in touch with you and how they can learn a bit more about what you do. Of course, you do coaching, you do workshops, and we've just gotten a taste of what you do today. I should mention Laura's based in Tamworth, and so she does live in-person workshops from time to time. But go ahead, Laura, I don't want to steal all of your thunder. Go ahead, let us know.
Oh, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone. It means a lot to me that you showed up today. And more importantly, showing up for yourself is a huge step. So I would encourage you to make decisions that make you feel proud, right? Like what makes you feel proud of yourself. It's showing up in ways that maybe are a little uncomfortable. Everyone shared so much today, and that was really meaningful. I do have my own business located in Tamworth, outside of Kingston, Ontario. I just got back into doing in-person workshops, and I'm really loving it. But this experience today was also really great because everyone was very engaged and interactive, which is nice to have in an online space. You can check out my website, lifedesigncoaching.ca. I offer lots of self-study courses. I offer some live courses and coaching, things like relationship remedy, intentional mornings, all in collective, things that get you thinking differently like we did today, and embodying the future version of yourself, and letting go of old beliefs. That's really my goal. Is I want everyone to be able to tap into who they're really here to show up as, and it's different for everyone. So I hope that you take some time to go through the
We all
questions.
did. I did as well, Laura, and the aha moments, that the ripple effect of that is really going to impact someone's business. We always love to hear, by the way, feedback, or send that feedback right to Laura to thank her for the workshop. But I thank you for interacting in the Zoom chat. Have a fantastic day, everyone. We hope to see you again. And if you are in the Kingston, Belleville region and you're not a weekend client, there's some things we talked about today. Of course, all of our coaching is free as well. In terms of helping with your business and connecting you with some amazing people like Laura. So do reach out, register as a weekend client. If you're not sure how, just email me. You have my email address as well. Thanks, everyone. Have a fantastic week.
Thank
Talk to
you.
you later. Bye-bye.